afternoon, BookTube. This is Jack from Jack's Reading Corner. And before I forget, I had wanted to share this in my reading update video, but I totally forgot. And forgive me. I'm congested, of course. Surprise, surprise. So I'm still kind of tired. So I guess I kind of forgot. But when I went to Walmart the other day, I got these. This one to add to my Stephen King collection. I like this size because it's easier to read and it feels like you don't have as much to read when it's like this kind of big print. Because compare it to his other his other books. I mean, I don't know how long this particular one, but this is apparently the TV movie tie-in edition, I believe. Or maybe it was more than a TV movie. I don't know. But anyway, that's Pet Cemetery, where this family moves into a house on a burial ground, and they are able to bring back. And I think when they bury things out in there, that's a living thing out there in the yard, then that thing will come back to life, but it will be kind of zombified. I remember they killed the cat, their pet cat, I think, dies, and they bury the cat in there, in the yard, and then the same thing, they bury their little baby boy gets run over by a car, I think, the couple, and I think they bring him back too. The baby comes back, which I was debating about buying this one because I would be worried that I would be thinking about, I would be picturing Harrison or Daniel, my nephews, as the kid that gets. That's why I'm also nervous about reading Cujo, because I'm worried, because I have 2 dogs, so I'll be thinking about them as Cujo. It's very hard because horror has a lot of death in it, characters die, and And then I also got this one, which is very famous young adult, not famous, very popular young adult, a booktube. Well, I don't know if it was considered a booktube darling or not, but everyone was anticipating. A lot of people were anticipating this and were really excited. And this is our Beauty and the Beast retelling. And I don't care. I know there are a lot of retellings of Beauty and the Beast. People get tired of it, but you know what? I haven't got tired of it yet. I just started getting into these Beauty and the Beast retellings and discovering them. So I read Hunted by Megan Spooner. I don't know if I'll read Sherwood though, her other book. So I like the idea of a Robin Hood retelling, but I've heard some things about what that is about. So if that was at the library, I might get it from the library if I start using the library again sometime soon. And I read, an Akatar, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This kind of Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I wasn't exactly happy with that because the way it turns out into the second book in the series, I was not pleased. So it was I don't want that one to be Beauty and the Beast retelling because that's my favorite fairy tale. It's no. And if you read the book, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about if you read the series. And then I read Crimson something, I want to say it's Crimson Beauty, or something, I don't know, or maybe that's the Red Riding Hood one, I don't know, but anyway, so this is retelling, and from what I know, this is blurred by Stephanie Garber, although, I know that Murphy Napier has said on her videos that don't trust the blurbs, and I do know that the main character she's a modern young woman, she's 21st century young woman, and I believe she has cerebral palsy, which I don't know what that is exactly. I mean, I'm familiar with the term, but I don't know what it is. So I have to look that up before I start reading. So anyway, it was Beauty and the Beast retelling. I'm up on that. So yeah, I wanted to share these two with the when I filmed my update on my reading this so far, but I haven't gone around to it yet. But I forgot. So, but okay, now on to the real reason that I'm doing this video. This last video I'm filming is a video where I talk about Sorry, like I said, I'm so tired. I wanted to do a review on some Ready for the Dark episodes. I know it's been a long time since I talked about that, so I decided to go ahead and do a review or talk about some of my favorite episodes. And I mainly was motivated to do it because I just started watching the series again, and I'm up to disc 3. So, I don't know what seasons are those, but anyway. So the next 2 episodes I want to talk about are actually ghost stories. They have some pretty good ghost stories. I mean, they're still kind of cheesy, and the acting is still okay, but you know, it's a 90s, and as my friend, as Terry from Florida had reminded me, well, it is a kids' show. It's like, yes, thank you, Terry, for reminding me that. But anyway, although she might watch this video. If she did, I'm sorry, but it did kind of annoy me when you were all like, telling me, oh, it's a kids show, but I'm a horrible friend who was all like, oh, I'm not gonna tell her that it annoyed me. I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, so, the 2 episodes I'm going to talk about are The Tale of the Prom Queen and The Tale of Old Man Corcoran. The Tale of the Prom Queen was told by Kristen, and oh, well, first let me remind you, because it's probably been a while since I don't know if you're gonna go back and watch my other reviews, but on the show, but on episodes of the show, but this is basically a show where a group of kids, like high school, early high school, middle school age, gather together and tell stories by a campfire. And there was actually a theory because, of course, on TV shows, people are all like, oh, it's so weird that these kids can get away with doing this in real life. There's no way we could do that. So there's a theory that, oh, all these kids are actually dead. And they're all ghosts. So, anyway, which is a bit meta, I feel like. I think that's the word. So, and this is Kristen told the story, the tale of the prom queen, and she actually I love her opening because, you know, they're getting all impatient because they're like, oh, she's taking forever to get here, but it turns out the reason why she's doing that is because she is walking very slowly, has a sheet on her, and is looking in with a corsage and kind of trying to move like a ghost, trying to scare people a little bit, creep them out. So doing it for ambiance, for atmosphere, for effect, as she puts it. So in this episode, we start with this young woman, this teenager, you know, probably 16. She's putting flowers on a grave, and these guys, you know, decide to sneak up on her and scare her a little bit, you know. And Greg and Jam, her name is Dee Dee, they decide to sneak up on her, and then they are like, oh, you want to hang out with us? And we're looking for the ghost of a prom queen who was waiting for her date at the graveyard. And I'm thinking, and someone, I think when people used to upload episodes on YouTube, on here, people would leave comments, and someone said how it was funny that, when they posed the question of who would wait for their date at the graveyard. It's like, why? I mean, I guess her neighborhood was close to the graveyard or whatever. It's like, why would you do that? It's creepy. And it turns out the guy that she died because she got hit by a car, I think. So, of course, you know, so they suggest to her, why don't you help us, you know, find more about this ghost and find her grave and everything. So she agrees because, oh, this would be so cool and kind of fun and a little creepy, but fun. And, so she decides to, they decide to go check out old newspapers on microfilm in the library. And what's really funny is in the scene there, you know, it's dark, so they can't, you know, it's dark in the room because you wouldn't be able to see on the newspaper, you know, wouldn't be able to see on the screen of it's really old computers, because this was in the 90s. And what's really funny about that scene is you just see the audience sees their backs and them looking on the screen, and there's this silhouette approaching them. You can sense there's someone approaching them. You know how the camera does those little tricks where, you know, they give you the impression of someone's watching or following them. And And then they hear all these sounds, and they start freaking out. So then they turn around, and it's a little old lady with a tea tray with plates and milk and cookies kind of thing. And she's like, "Can I get you guys something to eat, or would you like some tea or something?" And Greg is all like, "No." It's a funny moment. It's a cute little funny moment. And so the next that day they're eating lunch, and they suggest, okay, we need to dig a little deeper, because they also find out, of course, that Ricky, the boyfriend, the girl's name is Judy, the prom queen ghost. Her name was Judy, and her boyfriend got so upset when he found out that she got hit by the car and died. He is driving on the bridge and gets hit by a car himself and ends up in the river. And so Dee Dee suggests that, well, let's contact Ricky's spirit and let him know to pick up Judy, because they won't be able to move on until he does that. And they can go to the prom in the heavens. So she suggests, we'll do a seance at the lake where he died. So they go there late around twilight, and they take a motorboat out to the lake and conduct a seance. And Dee Dee leads the seance, and it's really cool, and she really gets into it and is really good at it. She doesn't close her eyes, picture the car with every single detail. It's like, imagine this, and then she starts talking and being like, "Ricky, you need to pick up Junie, she needs you," and all that. And they're like, "Oh, you're really good at this." And, telling them they need to concentrate. And then next thing you know, they start hearing sounds like of a motor or something. And bubbles are forming up above the water. They start freaking out. So, and of course, for dramatic effect, they can't get the boat started. And so they come to shore. And the car and whatever motor was start, and they're all freaking out, but they're not sure if they believe this and all that. So they decide, okay, well, let's go visit the graveyard and see if he'll come to pick her up. And they have to be there and they have to stay there all night until midnight, and that's when they'll arrive, of course. So they get there and they're waiting, and then all of a sudden, they see a figure in this cloak with something that makes noise, like something that jingles, walking slowly through the graveyard. And Greg is thinking, they're thinking, oh, that's the ghost. So Greg decides to follow the figure, and then it turns out it's Jam's cousin, of course. And he's like, "Boo!" It scared me. And of course, Greg is all pissed because it's like, and you find out that Jam didn't actually really believe in the whole ghost story anyway. And he was just like, "Oh, this is so fun, so cool," but there's really no such thing as ghost. And then all of a sudden, they see, they see headlights of a car coming up through the gate, coming towards them, and they start freaking out and go, "No, there's no way, it must be the caretaker or whatever." But then they see a guy driving an old Chevy, and it's the actor who played the main kid in The Sorcerer's Apprentice, by the way, the episode The Tale of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. He plays Ricky, and he comes, and there's music and stuff like that, and there's old 50, and then all of a sudden, Dee Dee starts transforming. She takes down her hair, and she's and they're all like, Dee Dee, what are you doing? And it turns out, and I just realized a few minutes ago, I essentially spoiled it. She reveals that she is the ghost. So it was very much a Sixth Sense kind of ending, and they're all and it's so funny in their reaction, because they're just staring, oh my god. It's very funny, this moment. And she basically told them that she needed their help. She couldn't leave the cemetery unless someone brought her with them. And there are these clues sprinkled throughout the episode, right after they finish lunch and everything and just decide to go have their seance, Greg is talking to her "Oh, you're not really interested. Are you really interested in this? Come on, it's stupid." And of course he's freaking out, and she's like, "Yeah, I think this is so cool and stuff." And he's like, "Okay, well, I think you're a little weird, but I like you." And her response is, "Keen. That's how she responds with the word keen instead of like great or really. She says keen. And you know that. And then later, another clue is that when they're looking at the old newspaper, she's like, "Oh, this is so cool! I've never seen this before." She's all excited over looking at newspapers on microfilm. And then the last clue they give is that she, like, when she's during lunch, Greg, of course Jam, who's a guy, of course guys eat a lot, so he sees her food and he's like, "Are you gonna eat that?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not hungry." So that was kind of a weaker clue, but still, it was because it's like she's not actually, it looks like she barely touched it. So it's like kind of implying that she doesn't eat. And in the beginning, when they first approach her in the graveyard, she's all, the way she speaks and tells them, "Oh, I'm new around here," or whatever. Just the tone kind of indicated something a little bit, like, suspicious. This was such a great episode. It's very creepy, and yes, it is dated and stuff like that, but it's very creepy, and I still, to this day, even though I know it's coming, I still kind of like the twist, because just their reaction to her, and them just staring at her like, "Oh my god." Like, this whole time she's a ghost. We've been interacting with a ghost this whole time. And it's so weird, because when I think of ghosts, I think of, in something place dark or at night or something. I don't think about ghosts coming out during the daytime. But yet, every time they do a ghost story episode, the ghosts are out during the daytime. It's like, I thought ghosts only came out at night. Why are they coming out at night? How can they be out during the daytime? But, I guess ghosts can make themselves, if they're powerful enough, they can make themselves tangible. And it will, it adds some interesting spin to these stories that they've been interacting with a ghost this whole time. So it's a really funny episode. There's all these little humorous moments, and I prefer Jam over Greg. Just his creepiness. I mean, I can see where he would kind of get annoying after a while, but as just casual just watching the episode, I definitely like Jam's personality a little bit more. He's very laid back and very funny and just messes around. Like I said, I can see where it would get annoying, but then because I'm only watching it's not like I watch this on a random basis or hang out with this guy, So far I think he's the coolest. Okay, so the next episode I want to talk about is The Tale of Old Man Corcoran. And this is an episode told by Kiki. And in this episode, we have two, she doesn't really, just the way, for her, she doesn't have to do. She and, Gary don't, or, she is one of the ones that I feel like doesn't have to do a lot to create atmosphere and tone and make it sound creepy, because just by the voice alone, she has the type of voice that can come up as intense and a little scary and make you a little nervous. She, along with, like I said, Gary and, what is her name? Betty Ann. They're good at creating atmosphere just with their tone, tone of voice alone. That's probably why the actors were hired, because they had the right tone of voice. They had good with a creepy vibe in their tone and stuff. So in this episode, we have these two boys move into this new neighborhood, this nice little suburbia, because where they were living before, it was kind of a rough neighborhood, kind of scary, and their mom decided, okay, we need to live in a nicer neighborhood. So she picks them up, it's two brothers, and moves them to this new neighborhood, and they, while they're just hanging out, I wish I could remember their names. They run into, they are approached by this group of kids, led by this kid named Marshall, and he decides, you got, asked to get to know them and everything. Is like, "Oh, you guys want to hang out with us? We play this game of hide and seek at the graveyard, but it might be a little too scary for you guys." And so right away, of course, that's when someone says that you might be too scared or too chicken to come with us, so they're all like, the older brother's like, oh yeah, we'll come. We're not scared of anything. So that night, late at night, at dark, they go to, it turns out that these kids play hide and seek at a graveyard. And one of the members, a female member, one of the, Sissy Vernon is all like, I don't want another member joining the group. Why do we invite someone else? So she is not very happy with these two boys joining the group and everything. So she decides to scare them with the tale of Old Man Corcoran. This is a legend that they've always told each other. And although I wonder if they've told, each person tells all the other kids like this story or whatever in the legend of Old Man Corcoran. But it's the story about this old groundskeeper that has been digging graves, and he's known for playing this harmonica, and then I think in the story, like, he got his hand chopped off or something. I can't remember. I just watched it a few days ago and I don't remember what if he got his hand chopped off or if he played to chop off these kids' hands who were kind of messing around and stuff in his graveyard. So anyway, like saying how the ghost of Old Man Corcoran moves around and you can hear him playing his harmonica sometimes. So, and Marshall's like, oh, that's not, oh, don't worry, she's just trying to scare you, it's not a real story, it's not a true legend or whatever. So they decide to, they start the game. And the two brothers decide, they all of a sudden hear this noise, the sound of what sounds like a harmonica playing. And they start freaking, and they see the ghost of Old Man Corcoran, so they freak out in the middle of the game, and they take off running before the other kids are found. And so they end up, and of course they got in trouble with their mom. And the next night, that day, Marshall and the gang, his little gang, find them and are like, why did you guys, leave? You should have stayed. And he's like, well, because we saw Old Man Corcoran. We weren't going to stay for some stupid ghost that might hurt us. And like, oh, come on, I told you, it's not real. It's just a story made up. She was just trying to scare you. And of course, Verna is all like, oh, they're too chicken. And he's like, oh, we're not. And of course, the older brother does not like being called a chicken. So they decide, okay, fine, we'll go play tonight, but we're going to prove we saw the ghost of Old Man Corcoran. And they decide that they're going to steal his harmonica. So, and of course, they're like, well, since you were too chicken and were babies about it last night, we're going to make you be the ones who do the counting. So all the kids go hide, and the older brother decides to go and search for the harmonica and search for Old Man Corcoran so he can prove to them that they saw the ghost. And the younger brother is like, I don't want to get involved in this. I'm not that desperate to make friends. I don't want to get messed with stuff. So he's, of course, like, you know what? I think we can just save ourselves the trouble and just get the other kids and show it to them. But the older brother's like, no way. I want actually tangible proof. I don't want to just show it to them. I want to steal their harmonica. So the younger brother goes off to find the others, and the older brother, goes into Old Man Corcoran's shack after a failed attempt at getting the harmonica, and he attempts to steal it. And of course it's dark, so he can't really see. And then the younger brother shows up and is like, I decided to, I changed my mind. I'm going to help you find it because I got too scared. Because, it's dark and he can't see. And he's afraid of a ghost. And they're afraid that the ghost is going to come after them. So he works, and then they end up finding the harmonica. And now here's the funny part, this funny scenes, is that the older brother put down the flashlight. And then he's like, thinking he gave to his younger brother, he's like, okay, give me the flashlight. And he says, no, I don't have the flashlight. And the older one's like, I don't have it. So you see the flashlight floating there, shining on them, just floating there, and they're all freaked out. And then the flashlight moves and it shines in the face of Old Man Corcoran. He's like, give me back my harmonica. And so they go running. Old Man Corcoran chases after them. They go running and stuff. And they find Sissy Vernon. They end up in a grave, in an open grave, and they find Sissy Vernon, and she's like, hey, we found the harmonica. We have proof that it exists. And all she cares about the fact that they're in her grave, And she's like, I don't want you here. Go away. I don't want you in my grave. And they're trying to tell her, we have proof. See, we have the harmonica. And she's like, I don't care. I don't want you here. Although she doesn't say, I don't care. She just basically screams, I don't want you here. So they leave, and then they run into Marshall, and they're trying to tell him that, and they find him, and he's like, and they tell him also that they have the harmonica, they approve, and he's like, okay, enough with the stories. I told you he's not real. And of course, I'm thinking the whole time, no, they have proof. They're not. Why do you keep thinking they're making it up? I mean, you would think a kid would want to believe it. And he's like, no, they're not. Why? They have proof, you know? And because, of course, as the audience, I know what's really going on. And so he's like, you know, and they're not making up a story. They're not trying to impress you or anything, you dumbass. So he's like, come on, let's play. Let's play the game. You know, no one can ever find you in here. And you can, come on, jump at the grave with me. And they're like, and why forget about the game? We found proof that the ghost is real. And he's like, but don't you want to play with me? And then so he goes back to hiding, and the old man taps the two brothers on the shoulder, and he's like, he wants his harmonica back and everything. He's like, why are you playing? Why are you here by yourself playing in this graveyard? And you know, the younger brother is like, oh no, we're not alone, and he lists all the names of all the kids they've been hanging out with and playing with. And they're slowly backing up, and the next thing you see is behind they're backing up towards a gravestone, and old man Corcoran is like, that's not funny. I dug those graves myself. Those kids are dead. So basically, that one is even closer to, even more accurate to a Sixth Sense type ending. And and that's how it ends. It's really, and I like this, again, another funny episode. The acting is okay. It's just, but I mean, it's 12-year-old kids, maybe 13, so their acting is not going to be fabulous. It's kind of funny the way it's done, because it's like, and of course, it's just really creepy. Oh, I remember, wait, Kiki did do something in the beginning to introduce the episode, her story. She actually had them play hide and seek before, on their way to the campfire, to their secret hiding place, their secret place. That's how she introduces the story, by having them actually play hide and seek. And it's just, but anyway, it's very funny, just, and, once they realize that these kids are, I wonder if the ghosts of these kids are going to leave them alone now. I don't know. They might continue to bother them and want to play with them. Or maybe once they're like, oh, you found out we're ghosts, well then I guess we gotta go after someone new. And now if you think about it, considering the twist at the end, that they're all dead, that they're actually, the kids are the ghosts, it's kind of interesting to note how Sissy Vernon was all like, I don't want you here, I don't want you to play with us, and now that I thought I was gonna be the last one. On the one hand, you think, oh, she's just being a brat, she's being selfish, she doesn't want to share the game with these two new kids. She likes being the last member. But if you think about, maybe you could argue that she was trying to do that to protect them, because she knew that, of course, that she guessed that these kids would probably end up like the rest of them, dead and stuff like that. So I think maybe she was trying to protect them and be like, and there's a little moment, there's a little hint that hints how the ending is going to turn out right before the climax, where she's like, where they're in Sissy's grave, and she's, they get out, they climb out, because she's like, I don't want you here, go away, and they're like, the younger brother's like, sorry, I didn't see your name on it, and she says, well, look a little closer. So it's like, ooh, what does that mean? And, of course, now it's like, you gotta wonder, because I feel like, would I be a little suspicious if this was my first time watching this episode, because now I know how it's gonna end and everything. But would someone recognize that as a twist? Was that too obvious of a twist? Of course, this is also for, like I said, as Terry reminded me, it's a show for kids. So they can't make the clues too hard to spot. They have to make the clues really, and plus, it's 30 minutes. Each episode is like, I think, 30 minutes. Maybe the actual tales themselves are only 20 minutes, I don't know. Although it's funny that now that I have a job and I have to pay attention to when I can get when I need to get back to work, when I'm taking a break, it's very funny because 20 minutes does not seem that long. But then, of course, when I'm anticipating when I'm going to get off and counting down the minutes until I get off, then it seems a lot longer. But anyway, it's definitely a good. So those are some of my favorite episodes. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I hope you're enjoying your reading. And I definitely would recommend, if you're interested in Ghost Story. I know it's an old show. It's meant for kids. It was made in the 90s, so it's kind of dated. But I definitely suggest checking out Your Fear the Dark. Although, of course, I kind of spoiled some of my favorite episodes. So, but I still think it's kind of, at least I personally feel like it's still entertaining, even if you know how it's going to turn out. Because it's very funny. It has a creepy atmosphere, it's a great show. So, I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!